Welcome to Emerald Incense, capturing Orthodoxy in Ireland. Today we are in the Diocesan Centre for the Romanian Orthodox Church in Ireland, and we are joined by Father Cristian. Father Cristian is a priest of the Romanian Orthodox Church and former head of Methodist Ireland youth organisation. Thank you for joining us, Father.
Thank you, Aisling, for taking this interview, and through you to the whole organisation of Fellowship Orthodox in Ireland. You're very welcome, and I'm glad to be here. And
thank you for being here.
Yeah, just because I'm going to expose a few of my thoughts. May God bless us to have pure and nice thoughts to express to the people who are listening. So,
would you like to introduce yourself a bit for us, Father?
Yes, sure. The thing that I don't hate, but I don't like the most to do. So, what can I say about me? Yeah, the fact that I'm from Romania. I'm from northeast Romania, a big place called Moldova. I've been born in there, and I arrived in Ireland in 2006. So I've been also then, in the meantime, ordained a deacon and then a priest starting in 2015, and to the Exaltation of the Holy Cross parish in Dublin. I've been serving for a couple of years in Dublin, also in the place that we are at the moment, the Diocesan Centre. It was the Missionary Centre before this. But also I've been doing a few missions around Ireland, like, for example, I've been serving for a couple of times in Belfast as well. And also, obviously, we're helping the Orthodox monastery in Shannonbridge. I love the country, I love Ireland, and beside that, I'm glad that I can help people, and through this I can help myself as well to gain a spiritual life in these certain times that we live.
Father, the first question I'd like to ask you is, what is your experience with Orthodoxy in your youth?
As you probably already know, being in Romanian, I was born Orthodox. I'm born, baptized, and raised into Orthodoxy. I will say that the whole period lived in Romania was, full of experiences regarding, spiritual experiences regarding the church and the spiritual life that I used to have within the tradition of the Orthodox Church. So, but I can split that into two phases of my life. So the richest one, and I would say the most probably important one, was when I was very, very young. I was spending many holidays into the countryside with my grandparents. So then, just because the village wasn't that big and they were really profound connected to their Orthodox traditions, I was encountering many of the aspects of being Orthodox into those places. Things like related to marriage, death, baptize, church, Easter, resurrection as well, obviously, Lenting, and all of those things were very important since I was a young person. So I remember that whenever someone from the village died, the family will organize a meal for the rest, and then it will invite each one of us. So we weren't missing any of them because we had like meals and sweets after that. But we were into those things, but I was obviously noticing this the journey of a human being in this world as well. So knowing him from whenever he was maybe alive and trying to teach us things, and then seeing him dying and getting older and dying. So that raised many questions into my head. But I was following all of the processes. So I was trying to get. Our grandparents were taking us to be part of that, and from their houses, for example, into the church, and then from there into the cemetery. So we were following all of the processes of the tradition of the Orthodox Church. And that had really an impact over myself, because it always kept into my soul, into my memory as well, what is the purpose of a human being? What is the purpose of myself in this world? And then what's the connection with God, for which I heard so many things around these traditions. That's one side. So I've encountered many experiences when I was very young, but then also my grandparents were profound religious. They were going to church some days. They were going, obviously we have, in Romania, we have plenty of monasteries around nearly everywhere. So we had one not very far from our village. And I do remember that my grandmother, used to go for the feast of that monastery every year. And she would fast before that, and she would have confession, and she would go by walking a long distance to get to that feast for the monastery. And she took me, I think once or twice, and then I was so much in love about this feeling, going and visit that monastic place, that the rest of my years spent into the village. I couldn't wait for this special moment where we could wake up very early in the morning and we start our journey to be around the feast of that monastery, which was the Nativity of Theotokos on the 8th of September. So that again, brought in front of me through my grandmother and through the grandparents and the other people attending to this event, the fervent way of living and simplicity of living Orthodoxy, and something that sparkled my interest into the faith. That's the first, or say, phase. Then obviously I grew up and I got more mature. I went to university and things kind of changed. The teenager times when you are trying to discover world and you are trying to try new things, and maybe you have different entourage around you. So that's the second part. A part that it wasn't that very connected to the faith and to the church, but I kept always into my soul and into my mind those questions and those spiritual experience that I've encountered, and into the village, where I lived, where I spent my summer holidays. Another thing that I really remember, and I still keep it as a sweet memory, I would say, into my soul, is that in Romania, all of the churches inside, and sometimes most of them are outside as well, they are painted with the saints and maybe scenes of the great feasts. So I was always amazed about this world that the church is bringing into our face. And I was wondering, what's with those saints? How did they live, and where are they now, and how are they living, and what message have themselves to send to us? And I felt for many times when I was visiting a monastery, or I've been into a church for a service or so, I felt a different feeling. I would say spiritual, very deep spiritual. And I do remember that I said to myself, into my thoughts, I must be into that world as well. Somehow I must be part of that world around those saints, because I know that many icons of the saints are quite serious, but they also inspire joy, but a different joy, not a worldly one, but a heavenly one. So that really attracted me. And obviously, as I grew up, I found more and more about the saints, about how they lived, and we obviously have next to that monastery that I mentioned, we had a saint there, and I was quite visiting his place and so on. So that was another very profound feeling that I had as well, related to the church itself and to going to the church. And then around the city that I lived, I do remember that since I was like maybe around 13, 14 years old, I was the person responsible to bring the light from the resurrection service, which started at midnight and then will be finished around around the starting of the dawn in the morning. So I was the one. So I took that very seriously. My mother told me, "Listen, now you're a grew up person, so you have this duty to go to church and to bring back the light for the resurrection, and also the blessed basket with food that we had to do. That's another part of our tradition." So I was taking that very seriously, and I do remember that it wasn't any Easter to be missed. So was always, but obviously, not attending as I wanted because the church was full. So we were staying outside the church, but probably maybe playing around a little bit, but also being very serious that something is happening there. So it's the resurrection, and I have this duty to bring back to light. And it was a very, I'll say, very joyful moment arriving in the house after the service and saying to my parents, "Christ is risen," and bring the light. So that was very important. I think this is for me a thing that brought a very big mark into my soul. The resurrection of Christ, always kind of that feeling of the light, that feeling of God presence with the resurrection, always kind of brought me from the deepest moments of my life up to the surface, up to the light again, and obviously enforce my faith as well.
Father, when you were participating in so many different funerals, how did that make you or the community approach, life after death?
Obviously, I thought deeply about that, yeah, because being a small child and seeing people dying and being with their family suffering and being with them from, like I said, the journey from their house to the cemetery. Firstly, it was a sad thing to take part, but then I was thinking myself, "Oh, I shouldn't go the next time then," so because that's something very sad. But that didn't happen, so I was actually willing to go to all of those funeral services because I had the feeling that I'm learning something about what's happening after someone is passing over, after someone is dying. So I was trying to make a connection, but everything ended up as around the mentality of this world. So you are dying, and then that's the end of it. Okay, and that I was thinking about that more recently when I'm contemplating about those moments. That's supposed to be for, or say, a 10 years or 9 years old boy, kind of a trauma or a bad experience now. But it wasn't like that because I could see that, firstly, the people died for, many of the cases that have been natural causes, and they were truly believers. So they were fully immersed into the tradition of the church. So there weren't too much sorrow about it because they believed into the resurrection. And that was the key that opened the understanding of life and life on earth and life after death, the resurrection. Otherwise, everything will ended up like, for me at that stage, should be a very bad experience. Like I said, a trauma, but it wasn't like that. So until I took part, I wouldn't be realizing that's the light, that the light of resurrection, that the resurrection and the life into the eternal kingdom of God will be what we are actually expecting, and that that the life that we live on earth is just a preparation for that. So I've noticed that those brought into my knowledge the hope, the big hope that our Lord Jesus Christ gave us through his resurrection. So that's why, for me, as being a small little boy participating into those funerals, were not moments of joy, but always moments of learning about death, about resurrection, and about life after death. Very important for resolving also the question that I had: what's the purpose? And then the purpose was just there, being with God after death. So death is not the end of yourself. It's just a stage, or I'll say a gate that will open for the eternal kingdom with God.
Father, what made you consider the priesthood?
Regarding this, this matter, I will say I will consider myself, even though I've been raised Orthodox, I've been baptized Orthodox, I will consider myself somehow a convert. Because with my arrival in Ireland in 2006, I kind of switched my entire mentality in a different way. I have a different experience back in Romania. I was next to my parents, I was next to my family, to my traditions, to my cultural links with Romania and everything else. But yeah, coming in Ireland wasn't that easy. So I found myself being sometimes alone, sad as well, because I didn't have the people that I knew, my friends, my mom as well, my sister and everyone else. So I felt a little bit alone, but I didn't felt that I've been left outside God. So I felt more direct, more closer to God. So since I felt that, I really want to deepen this relation with God. I wanted to improve it somehow, to make it be more fruitful to me. Not because it was my only escape at the moment. I didn't consider it that way back in that period, but I wanted to get more from that, to get more love. That was the feeling that I got from God: love and understanding, embracing in the same time. So that's why I was will call myself a convert, because while I was a teenager, I didn't went too much then to the church. So I had like time. I didn't have time to go to church. I only had time to study and obviously some other things, not considering church as being the first priority. But then over here, I really felt that I need to obviously I was becoming more mature and in life as well, and I felt kind of danger around me. So that's why I decided to go to the church and to ask for God's help and to meet God and to pray to God. So this is how I went into the church in Lisson Park, actually. So I went for the first time, and then I continued to go and go and go. And then I found out that the thing that I was searching, it's in there somehow. So this is how it's kind of the stone from my heart departed. And I felt that I need to do something about this at that stage. So at the moment I spoke with the spiritual father that I had back in time. And I told him I really kind of burning to do something else. I really need to do a change in my life. I think I need to discover God more. I need to pray more, and I need to, to explore the relation with Him, if possible, in a different way that I had it before. That's what I'm feeling. What should I do? And obviously, he said what I need to do, and then it was a very important turn point for my life, because I knew that I have to take a decision. I was having this kind of thirst for God and this kind of desire to know Him, but I was always putting this on the second place. So I didn't consider that to be the first priority for me, or a priority for me. So since that moment, I took a decision, and I remember that I went home and I quit all of the music that I have in my computer and all of the things that I was doing up till that time. So eventually, I went to take the confession. I attended to more and more services. I was starting to sing in the choir, and I was starting to learn about God from a theological point of view more and more. And with this change, my desire become more larger and larger. So that's why at some stage, someone told me if I do consider to follow some theological studies. And that first person was actually a priest from Northern Ireland. His name is Father Irenaeus. He was belonging to the Antiochian Church at the moment, and he had a parish in Belfast. So he was very close to the young youth people, say, and actually his church was full of those kind of convert people from around the place, Northern Ireland, Belfast, and it happened to me to go with Romanian priests from Dublin to do services in there, and this is how I met him, and he directly approached me and said, "Listen, I think you should do something and do some theological studies." So he presented me some kind of a college that I could follow from distance by learning, So I did enroll into that at first instance, and I remember that I did follow the courses for about maybe a year or so. But then I did, from a different perspective, I did consider to do something in Romanian language, just because English was not my first language. So it wasn't hard, but I think I took that more and more serious, and I considered to do it back in Romania. So that's why I stopped the college that I started, and then I've joined one in Romania. And then, obviously I followed that for 4 years. I was studying in theology in there. Something that I'd really working at the same time, studying as well, participating into the church services, singing in the choir. That got me so close to everything. So I think this aspect as well, participating into the divine liturgy and other services that the church, the mystery of the church. I think that participating is not only being attentive or being in there, but it's also this side of learning. So church have this purpose of learning. Even the Orthodox people themselves about Christ, about Trinity, about faith. So in the same time, not even I was studying theology systematically, but I was also learning by participating. So that's why even now I still encourage all of the people to be part of the church mysteries as much as possible, be present into the divine liturgies and all of the services that we have in the church. So that's how I ended up then. It was not my decision. I didn't have the purpose to become a priest. I only had the desire to know God more. And I was just listening to the advice of my spiritual father to follow these studies. So then we had, at that moment, we had Bishop Ignatie. And I got to know him, and he became my spiritual father. And slowly he proposed to the Metropolitan for my ordination. And then in 2015, I've been ordained as a deacon firstly for 1 year. And then in 2016, I've been ordained as a priest, which obviously brought something I didn't expect, to be honest. It wasn't planned. It was not in my plan, but I've said if that's the will of my spiritual father, and if that's the will of God, then I will be obedient and I will do it. And I said, it's in those moments I didn't calculate anything else. I said, I will listen to whatever you say, and I will follow as much as I can. So I think those kind of things. So I'll say, first of all, maybe take a decision, but take that decision with your spiritual father. Take the decision by being attentive and listening to God's will as well. This is very hard, but how can we do this? I cannot say for a definition. Each person has his own way to turn itself to God. But then we must be very careful at some stages, because God is talking to us, but He's not doing it in a kind of a very radical way. He's not shouting. It's a very sensitive thing, which is happening into the deepest of our soul. So I think those things, and also obviously it's very nice to learn systematically about the patristic fathers, about the tradition, about the dogmatic theology and the rest. Things that you need, obviously, and you're going to encounter in your life as a priest, and obviously helping the community. But that's a thing that's not going to end with your diploma after you're finishing the studies, but it's going to, we're learning as we live. So it's something that's going to extend till the end of our lives.
Father, you mentioned, following the will of God. And I was wondering if you could go into more detail on, how you experienced that.
Yeah, my own experience, I would say, only from that point of view, following the God's will, and I think everyone it's probably passing at some stage to a time of crisis when they're looking for answers, and I really encounter that into my priesthood at the moment with people, but mainly I would say people around after they're finishing their studies, youth generally are kind of concerned about their future, and if they're looking to get a spiritual life as well and a connection with God, they're very interested into how to find God's will into their life as well. So this thing could be expressed directly by having this question, or I would say what happened into my case, I was in a time of crisis. So I knew that I have something onto my mind. I knew that I had something on my soul that no one could kind of explain it to me, and no one could resolve it for me. So I was living in this crisis for a couple of, I would say, a period of time, maybe around 2 or 3 years, having questions, having concerns about myself, about life, and soon after that, I was just struggling all the time, not finding my peace nowhere, and I couldn't settle anywhere. So it did happen with the turning point that I've mentioned with my converting time or period, and when I've turned myself 100%, I would say, to God, and I said, maybe I said in those moments, maybe I've said, "Being your will," but I didn't probably articulate it that way. But I found that I could not do my own way in this life. That's what I felt at that moment. So I said to myself, well, definitely I cannot do my own will. My way is not the way that I need to follow, because I had plans and plans to do things, and that didn't resolve my problems. So I said, I will definitely change and take this decision now, and that's it. And when I said that, when I admitted that thing, I really felt a deep power and peace into myself. And obviously, with that moment, things didn't change immediately, but obviously, I could feel that from that moment, with time, things had changed, and all of my issues with existing problems with the relation with God have been solved. So I would say, first of all, we have to be in position to take a decision, and that decision is it's not something that we will have to pretend in front of someone. I will take that decision, but lying, but being truly honest with yourself first of all, and with the person that you're maybe confessing this. In my case, was the spiritual father, and not the last in front of God. To be honest, so decision with honesty. It's a very important thing. And then before that, it's important, like I did, the crisis time. It's a time of research. It's a time of searching for God. It's a time for looking for God's will. That's our struggle. But then we do, I would say, just 1% for this equation, and then with His grace, it's solving the other thing. So that 100% is just stay calm and listen as much as possible. Whatever God wants to say, it's either true within your soul or within another person, maybe within your spiritual father, or maybe through your whole existence, you can have an answer. But but in order to gain that little moment of listening, obviously we have to consider this very important. This being a very important moment of our life, and to put this as a priority, number one thing to do, and quit on the other things. So we need to get rid of, as much as we can, of our passions, get rid of the sins that we do usually, and put this as top priority. And then everything will follow. So I'll say maybe it could be just a start for someone, but for me it was a very crucial point into my life. Listening, take a decision with honesty, and then God's grace will complete the rest of your desire.
So, Father, I'm curious if you knew anything about, Irish Christianity or Irish Saints before you came to Ireland, and what made you want to explore that more.
Before coming to Ireland, no, definitely I didn't knew anything. I didn't knew where exactly Ireland is, to be honest. So that's a funny thing now to remember. I knew that there is some place next to we all heard about Great Britain, so but not too much about Ireland. So I didn't knew that this aspect of Ireland being so important into the spiritual life, so important into the saintlyhood as well. And I did never imagine that I could explore and discover so many things about the saints and about Orthodoxy in Ireland, not only in the past but also in the present as well. So that was I would say my coming to Ireland definitely at this stage, and I truly believe now that my coming into Ireland was truly a providence of God, just because the things happened, how the things happened to me, to my life, the blessing that I received. And I'm really grateful for that at the moment. The second part about Christianity and Orthodoxy in Ireland, never knew about the many saints that lived in here. Never knew that about Saint Patrick, for example. It was probably because of the history that, Romania being a little bit far and about the time that we passed, not many information came to our knowledge. So I truly believe that that's I will say a gift for my spiritual life, that I had the chance to discover all of the saints and the Christianity and all of the holy places that Ireland had. Into the stage that as Saint Patrick was saying, the age of the world. Yeah, indeed, it's kind of the age of the world if you consider the west coast of the Atlantic Ocean in Ireland as well. But apart from that, to the stage that I myself, as we can read in the books, that this was an insular academy of Irish saints. And on the other side, a very beautiful and profound definition that I could say after my living in Ireland and after getting in touch with the saints and the places that they used to be here in the past, that Ireland itself, it's the Mount Athos of West. And because of the multitude of the monasteries, the multitude of the monks that they lived, and the way that their beliefs and the way that they lived the faith in their lives. So that happened slowly, didn't happen from the first instance. So coming from Romania, we obviously had a connection with the Roman Empire. So while we're talking about the Roman Empire, we are talking about Christianity as well, connection with that. So I was always, wherever I went in Europe, I was looking for the Roman Empire tracts or monuments, or you say any other archaeological discoveries that they belong into the Roman Empire. So I was looking for the same thing here in Ireland. So I've noticed that there is no marks of any Roman Empire presence in the past in here. But on the other side, I could not explain where are all the saints' name coming from. So even if you take a short walk in some place, maybe around the city itself, you can see that there is a school dedicated to some saint. There's a street called about the saint. There's also maybe a holy well, a round tower. Like we have to mention Clondalkin, for example. You're passing through a village with a round tower. That's amazing. And I was just looking to see where is that coming? Are these people, the Irish people, just inventing saints' name, or what's the story with those multitude of this names of saints? So this is how I was kind of amazed of the multitude, and how are the people giving the name of a saint to a school, to an institution, to a road, to a place, and everything is connected to those saints. Kind of, obviously, some of them they're very kind of popular, with Saint Patrick, Bridget as well. But some of them they're quite probably not very known into the society. So that's how I was just, that was the starting point, I would say, in order to discover. And then I really felt that, and I really found in the same time a deep treasure in here. So just like someone finding a gold mine into the mountains, and which it's a real heritage of Ireland, and it's a legacy that those people, saints that lived in the first centuries of Christianity, left for ourselves. And obviously because of the events that happen in time through history, probably with the coming of Vikings, with the Anglo-Normans as well, and then with the reform in the church, some of them have been neglected or hidden, or maybe even destroyed as well. But the way that I feel now today, it's that we really should rediscover the saints. We should really read about their lives and the way they lived, and that should be primarily a source of inspiration into our spiritual life. At least that's kind of some kind of a small direction that I'm using into my life. So, and that's a small little confession that I want to do now. So whenever I feel troubled, whenever I feel sad, or I feel unhappy, and I struggle a little bit into my spiritual life, I do either visit an old monastery, a ruin. I do read about some saints. So this gave me all the time. This gave me a relief, gave me more hope, and gave me some kind of a purpose to do. So I will say again, with in relation to that, in relation to the Irish saints, in relation to Christianity, I deeply feel connected at the moment. And again, I feel that God's present into this, and the saints, I feel them present, and as more I go deep and to find about them, as more as I go and visit their places, I feel that more is to be offered to me in order to discover, and in order to pass this kind of information to the other people as well. So and that's an amazing journey to do, to be honest, and it's very, I'm really grateful for that. And obviously we have saints in Romania, and from time to time I visit Mount Athos, and there's plenty of saints in there as well. In Greece have, as we know, loads of saints, but I feel more attracted to this. I don't know why. So the connection, it's very strong at the moment, and it's really fulfilling my spiritual life. And I want to take the full advantage of it. So it's a very important decision to follow this path as much as I can, up to wherever the end will be.
So, Father, what initiatives have there been to restore the memory of the Irish saints?
From my own point of view, there are just a few of them, but they're very important. So I will say, I will start with the Romanian Orthodox Church in Ireland, and the fact that it was a decision taken by the Holy Synod of the metropolitan area to name the parishes in Ireland, with giving them firstly one of the feasts of the church, and then secondly to name them with a local saint. So that's why we have now all of the parishes in Ireland bearing both names: one, a name for a feast, and then secondly a name of a local saint. So this is how we can see St. Patrick in Cork, St. Bridget in Galway, St. Columkill in Blanchardstown in Dublin. And also I need to mention as well the new parish being opened now in where I serve in Longford, dedicated to the Nativity of Theotokos, and St. Mel of Ardagh. So that's one of the initiatives taken by the Holy Synod, the Metropolitan Synod, naming the parishes, first of all. So recognizing from that instance, and then having the Irish saints are their protector. The second thing worth to be mentioned is the calendar that we use, the liturgical calendar, where we included the local saints. So apart from Patrick, Bridget, we have also Saint Ita, Saint Enda as well, Saint Finian, Columkill, obviously, and I think from year to year now, I think the bishops are looking to get, to recognize more and more saints. So we do celebrate them, and we also now trying to, whenever we do remember them at the end of the service, we mention the protector of this island, which is Patrick, Bridget, and Columkill, and if there is any commemoration of one saint on the day, we do remember that saint as well. So the calendar is very important, and I think that's as well being recognized through the other denominations, the Greek Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox Church as well. Then obviously I've noticed more and more translation of their liturgical text. Firstly, text that we can use in the service. I know, for example, that there is Father Tudor from Galway had an initiative of composing an Acatist to St. Bridget. The Acatist was composed. The only thing now, it has been composed by Paul Kingsnorth. It's a new convert. It's a writer, a new convert. I presume everybody heard about him. So he composed the Acatist hymn, and then it's just at the stage now to be, approved by the Metropolitan Bishop. So that's a very important initiative, to have basically prayers dedicated to the Irish saints. On the other side, we can see that, for example, the monastery in Shannon Bridge, it's also very close to the monastic site of Clonmacnoise, and also the protector of the monastery, it's Saint Kieran of Clonmacnoise. And I was mentioned about translation. So I think there are a few translations, for example, in Romanian language of the life of the saints. We have the life of Saint Columkill, being translated. And I'm looking at the moment, and I asked for the blessing to translate St. Patrick's Confession as well. So that will be probably a project that's going to happen soon. And also on the other side, we have a small magazine that has been it's been published by the Romanian Orthodox Church in English, which is containing different aspects, different probably sermons, words from the Holy Fathers, explanation of the scriptures, passages, and then also a synaxarium containing the saints of Ireland. So that's an important tool, I would say, to have and to discover, and the Irish saints. Regarding this, I would say it could be done more than that, because we have many writings, many scholars, for example, in the 18th century, 19th century, had looked after their lives, and we have researches like fully documented in relation to their lives, in relation to the monastery, the architecture, the cultural aspects, and everything. So there's plenty of resources in there. The only thing about those is the fact that we need someone or somehow to give them an Orthodox perspective. So the scholar researchers are in there. Is the only way that we can use them and kind of give them this perspective, this Orthodox perspective. So in order to avoid any if there's any mistake from perceiving the Orthodox faith. But other than that, there are loads of them. A translation from Latin, translation from Old Irish as well, and writings of the Irish saints, monastic rules as well, explaining about the liturgical services, and for example, the belonging of the liturgical rite of Ireland as well. I think that most of people heard about Stowe Missal, which is an important manuscript into the Royal Irish Academy. that is explaining basically that Ireland was belonging to the continental liturgical rite. Those kind of things. So initiative, there are a few. They're very important as well. But I think in order to go deeper into the subject and to, I'll say, to bring the saints, firstly, to remember them in their feast days, to pray to them, to read their lives. I wouldn't say the word promote them, because they're more than present. They left so many marks in this island, but just to remember that, and then to consider, rediscover them, and bring them in front always, asking for their intercession in front of God. Since I was ordained as a priest, all the time next to the saints that we do remember in specific services, and also into the service of proscomedia, which is the service in order to prepare the holy gifts for the liturgy. I do always remember the saints of Ireland, and even if that's a service that only the priest will do, but the other services that we have in the church in front of the people, I most often remember, and I do name those saints as well. So that's one thing. And obviously what I was trying to do, and we're probably going to discuss more about the trips that I was doing for about more than 12 years now. I was trying to bring people to their places, to the monastery that they lived, where they were erected those high crosses, where they were erected those round towers, where they lived, and the cells that they had. So beside, the beauty of the island, I was trying to bring the people and to let them know and to have a direct touch with that. So eventually that ended up with a very, very nice experience. Regarding myself, my own, and regarding the people that joined me in those trips that we went to see. So with the grace of God, we reached many places in Ireland. Some of them are very hard to reach, like for example, Skellig Michael is one of them, and the Aran Islands as well. So we were very grateful for that. So yeah, I would say the thing is only to consider them and to discover them. But you can discover them by doing, these kind of trips, remembering them into the feast day, but also getting to the resources that we have. The scholars that left a huge amount of researches regarding, their, like I've said, their lives and the way they lived and so on. So I think that's a very next initiative to take. I really will consider that into my future as well. So that's why I was thinking to put all of those kind of gathering resources, classified resources, getting as much as possible accurate information about them under one single thing, which will be definitely called, I hope no one will steal my idea, Irish patristics. So hopefully God will give me strength and help to, with obviously the rest of helps that I'm going to receive to take that initiative going forward. It is also very important to mention about what Saint Porphyrius from Greece said about Irish saints. So he said that when the time will come that the Greek people will consider the Irish saints and the Irish saints will be venerated in Greece, at that time the Anglican will become Orthodox. And I think it's quite a reality today, because we can see that many of the Anglican people are inquiring about Orthodoxy, and we have a few examples of converts coming from the Anglican Church of Ireland, which is in our context, and many of them received baptized into Orthodoxy. So that's a reality that we live today, and related to what Saint Porphyrius said. There is actually a small, I don't think it's the only one in Greece, but there is a particular one in Athens. It's called Osia Xeni. It's a small chapel there, painted with all of the Irish saints inside. So I personally met the priest. He came with some stage to visit visit Ireland, and he brought me a full catalogue of the icons that he had into that chapel. The initiative belonged to his father, which I think it was a priest as well, and his father was the one hearing this from Saint Porphyrius. So, and regarding to our end here in Ireland, yeah, we can see that the presence of the icons into the Anglican churches, and also their attitude as well. They're very open. They're more, I would say, sometimes more closer. They feel, and we can feel them more closer. Comparing, I wouldn't say comparing, but next to the Catholic Church. So this is happening obviously because most of the churches are being given from the Church of Ireland councils. So it's very important and very fruitful connection that we have with them, and we can see that they're very open and they understand more quickly. I don't know how the Orthodoxy, and they're willing to know more about it, and they're very happy to have this. This around in Ireland, they don't have any issue with that. So we're very happy to have this. So,
Father, I remember visiting, St Finbarr's Cathedral, the Anglican Cathedral in Cork, and they showed us an icon of St Finbarr that was done by the famous Orthodox iconographer Aidan Hart. So I'm just wondering if you've seen any other icons of Irish saints.
Yeah, it's no surprise for that. I'm not really surprised. I do remember that a while ago, first of all, I was visiting the Glenstal Monastery. It's belonging to a Catholic order of monks, and I was really impressed about the collection of the icons that they had there, obviously belonging to the Russian Church. So first of all, I was impressed about that collection, and secondly, I did find there one of the first icon of Saint Patrick, which I loved, because I saw many representations of Saint Patrick, but this one was kind of pure Orthodox. So there you have an icon of Saint Patrick into a Catholic monastery. Then secondly, I do have between my trips, I do prefer a place to go always. A place near to Lough Derg on Shannon River, which is called Killaloe. There is an old cathedral there belonging to the Church of Ireland. So it happened to me that I at some stage visited the church, and I've met the parish priest. So by conversation, we got to the place that I've told him I'm a priest as well. I'm an Orthodox priest as well. So I usually go there and pray and sing, and I love to visit that place. And he said, "Oh, you should then see our new commissioned icon of Saint Flannan." And I was really surprised because it happened at that stage to me. So yeah, well, the icon, it's lovely, and it's like we had a discussion about it because I was very concerned about the way we should represent those saints, because they lived in a certain time and they were no other other influences about anything at the time. So indeed, he said that he's done a little bit of research into the resources that we have, Orthodoxy resources and the other iconographical sources. And indeed, the icon is very beautiful, and it does inspire a pure Orthodox feeling, So that icon, it's there. It's in that cathedral. Sorry, and it's a very a pure symbol of accepting again some or say part of the Orthodox faith. And there is a very important thing related to the icon. You can notice on the icon that the crozier that Saint Flannan is holding in his hand has been modified. So the icon has been painted in Italy, and then the iconographer didn't represent the crozier as the Irish crozier used to look like. So eventually the parish priest came back to him and said, listen, he gave some images and explained to him that the actual crozier is supposed to look like that. And well, another thing in relation to that, I'm really trying to ask the iconographers that I know to paint Irish saints more often. So I have this example of I would say the patron saints of Ireland, St. Bridget, St. Patrick, St. Brendan the Navigator, and St. Columcille of Iona as well. And also I'm waiting at the moment an icon of St. Mel, the protector of the parish in Longford. And what I have at home as well, another icon of St. Finian. So I presume a first thing to do is just to have, this kind of next step, having the icon of the saint being present into the liturgical space.
Father, do you see any similarity between the spirituality of the Irish saints and the Orthodox spirituality?
First of all, I'll think the way that we should consider, because the inspiration of their faith, of the Irish saints' faith, is coming from the Orthodoxy itself. Say they didn't kind of invented something new. So they are part of the Orthodox faith, and the monastic way of living. We know that in the first centuries, the golden era of the Christianity in Ireland, between the I'll say middle of 4th century, beginning of the 5th century up till maybe the 8th century. Those years were, the Christianity exploded in Ireland and developed so much. There were many monasteries being built, and loads of people attending to the monastic life and to the faith, many converts, and so that has the inspiration for that has coming to being passed from spiritual father to spiritual father and so on. We know that about Saint John Cassian. He spent some time in Egypt in the desert, and he noticed the way that the monks lived in there, and he brought that rule of monastic life of the desert, of the fathers of the desert. He brought that into South Gallia, or France, which is now France, and then from there spread it all over the rest of the Western world, which is the Britain and Ireland as well. And we know definitely that St. Patrick has been trained in Léra in South France. So it's definitely the inspiration and the path that the Irish saints followed. It's one of generic Orthodox core at the end of it. And similarities, that's the first thing, just to think that from a patristic point of view, this is coming from the whole Orthodoxy. Similarities, yes, we can see definitely, and in the way that they prayed. So there are many mentions about the fathers of the desert will open, every time with their arms open. So we can see those example into the lives of the Irish saints, giving not far away Saint Kevin's life, the way he prayed, and we know basically the story of Saint Kevin and the blackbird. So he prayed with open arms, and we know the story when the bird made a nest into his hands. And then there are many other examples of the saints and remarks that the way that they prayed with open arms. So that's one thing. The next thing that I found, it's praying in cold waters as well. So we can see that in the whole Christianity all over the world, and then we can see that into the Irish saints' lives as well. Trying to avoid temptation, trying to avoid the struggle that they had. They used to go sometimes in the night, sometimes in the day, up to into the cold waters, and recite psalms and prayers in order to avoid those bodily temptations as well. That's some similarities, but as well they were very close. I would say they were very close to nature, and they were very close to the animals as well. So again, I will mention Saint Kevin here, which was he lived in the wilderness and being surrounded by the animals. So the story said that he was praying into the reciting psalms into the lake, and then at some stage he dropped his psalter, his book, into the water, and an otter at some later stage brought his book back. So those kind of things, and not to go far, I will remember as well Saint Coleman from Kilmacduagh, which he was that close with animals that even a fly, I think a fly or a butterfly, kept the exact place or the row from the gospel where he left it from whenever he read it during the night services. And then whenever he came back to continue his reading, he found the mark with a live butterfly, and also a mouse that will assist him into his tasks. And again, Saint Kieran from Clonmacnoise, his closest friend, it was a cow that he loved so much, and that he brought with himself into the monastic school of Clonard, where he provided milk for the rest of the brethren there. So, and then eventually the story goes more further than that, relating the closeness of the saints and the animals and the nature as well. So that's another similar thing. Obviously, on the other side, we heard about Saint Gerasim of Jordan and his closeness to the lion that he had. And obviously, in Romania, we have Saint Theodora, who lived as well in the mountains, and she was very close to the birds, for example. And there are many examples. So that's a common thing for the saints. And I'll say this is very common because through prayer, through spiritual life, I think the saints and the nature and the animals and everything it's surrounded, even the natural feature of the weather as well at some stage, are the saints through the prayer, through the spiritual life that they have, they kind of reconstructed the heavenly surrounding of the human being into the nature. So the peace that they have with the rest of the creation, the natural elements of the nature, the animals, and everything that's it's in the creation. So that's another similarity between them. But what I will also notice, and this is it's a very, I will say, very serious part of it, is the ascetic life that they had, the zeal that they have for God. The thing that conducted them to live even far away into the sea, into the small islands like Skellig Michael or Aran Island, or even in the middle of the lakes, being far away from all of the humans and far away from the troubles of this world. So again, we can see that as well into the Desert Fathers' lives, where they were retreated, and even today in Mount Athos, where they live there, in hermitages and monasteries apart from, far away from the troubles of the world and far away from any other thing that they could interrupt their praying. And also, we can see that into the monastic life, as we everywhere we can see the abbots leading a monastery, leaving a certain rule for the monastic community to follow after his death. So it's the same thing. The same thing will apply in Ireland as well. So there are some monastic rules wrote, some of them attributed to, say, probably Saint Finian and I would say Saint Angus of Talam, and obviously to mention an Irish saint, Saint Columbanus as well from Bobbio. So in the same range of the other monastic figures from the rest of the Orthodox world, they were living a monastic rule, like Saint Benedict left as well, a monastic rule. So those things they're very similar and very common for Irish saints. That's another proof that the Orthodoxy in Ireland was very connected to the rest of the world. So it's not something apart, not something different. It was different because of the specific of the place, being an island, first of all, being surrounded by the water, and having this privilege of having this, maybe I would say, a small little islands outside in the ocean, and have this privilege to go and retreat there and form a monastery as well. So, yeah, so we spoke about similarities between the Christianity in Ireland and then the rest of the world, but it's worth mentioning about the specific features of Christianity in Ireland. So I don't know where to start because there are so many, so important. Probably the first one that we know definitely by the chronicles, that the monks living in Ireland had a different tonsure, monastic tonsure on their head. So they are having they were shaved in front and long hair on the back. And also they were observing a different date of celebrating the resurrection. But obviously that was a very important and major theme around all Christianity. So we see that around the 500, the 5th century, we had the Great Council where they were discussing about that date. So obviously there was kind of a difference between that part of the world and this part. So they had observed the old ways of considering Easter. So that there were two things in there. But on the other side, what if we are visiting Ireland, and we are definitely in the first instance amazed about the multitude of the high crosses erected in Ireland. Some of them are named just high crosses because they're having that the ring around the arms, just like this one here, this one that I have around my neck, the ring around the arms, but also the other ones will have multitude of scriptural scenes carved into them. Those are called scriptural crosses. The most important one will be the one in Monastery Boys and the Cross of Scriptures in Clonmacnoise as well. But they are, beside those, they are the most important ones. But beside those, there are plenty of them. And even different styles between the high crosses as well. So we have the Ahini crosses, which are very different than the other ones from the island. So you can make, starting from there, a whole category of crosses. But they are very specific to Ireland, and also obviously the round towers, which are kind of a landmark for the monastic sites and for the whole Ireland as well. Also to mention the fact that on the island itself, in the monastic sites, there were produced so many illuminated manuscripts, so important. Obviously, we need to mention Book of Kells, Book of Douro, Book of Book of Clonmacnoise, and some of the annals as well, like the annals of Clonmacnoise, the annals of Inishfallen. So the monks in the monasteries used to copy the holy text. The first one who started that was Saint Columcille, from where the dispute started in Ireland, and since we have his departure in Iona in Scotland. Sorry. So that was another feature very important for the Irish Christianity, the manuscripts that they left. And also after the 6th century, just because Europe itself was under attacks of the barbarian tribes, and the Christianity was forced to gather in small groups. The zeal of the Irish monks were so high that they left their own country and they were starting to spread Christianity around the continent. So that's why we can see, for example, many of the Irish names around the continent. In Switzerland we have Saint Gallen, and also in Belgium we have Saint Forcy and Foylan. So many of the Irish monks who left their monastery and decided to spread Christianity in those territories, which the faith was lost because of the attacks of those tribes. So that's another specific thing which you would not expect from these monks who came here to pray and to stay away from the trouble of the world. And that's very nice to know that, if you go, for example, in northern Italy, in Bobbio, you'll find a monastery founded by famous Columbanus. If you go probably around the St. Constance Lake in Switzerland, you'll find even a small village founded by Irish monks as well. So that's very impressive. And apart from that, there is obviously, we need to mention about the buildings that they have around, apart from the round tower. The churches themselves used to have a specific architecture. So that's why we sometimes, because they were copying books, they were producing manuscripts, they used to have scriptoriums. And there are lovely, lovely scriptoriums to be observed into the monastic sites. At some stage, as I've mentioned, Killaloe there, that's an amazing place where you can see those scriptoriums there. The city itself is holding 2 examples of them, which is quite amazing for such a small little village or city, in Ireland, to have 2 of them scriptoriums. They are unique buildings, usually made by, the construction is made by dry stone only, so no cement involved into that. The shape will be like a tent, and then they'll have an entrance and a window, and people will gather in there either to copy the holy scriptures, or either to listen to the daily gospels only. So those are unique, and I don't think you can find similar features in the rest of the world. Those little small cells, not to mention as well the specific beehive cells on Skellig Michael, made from stones.
Father, I'm just wondering if there's any, specific places or writings or saints, Irish, places and writings and saints that hold kind of a special place in your heart.
Yeah, that's, I would say, pretty much difficult question to answer. But obviously, each one we feel probably attached to someone in particular. So definitely, I will have many of them in my heart as well. But I will start definitely with Saint Patrick, which I discovered with time. It wasn't, because his perception, I would say, it was, I would say, wrongly proposed to me in a way of people conception and mentality. So that's why I've kind of discovered him by time, slowly by time. But obviously, first of all, I was trying to not look at the image that the world was proposing, being seen as a person responsible to banish the snakes from the island. So I went back and I've read his confessions, and that kind of led me to discover Saint Patrick. So yeah, I'll start obviously with Saint Patrick. He has a special place in my heart, and I do really think that because he had an important mission in Ireland, always it's very close to any person that is looking to have a relation with God, to have a spiritual life, and also to explore Orthodoxy, especially living in Ireland. So Saint Patrick, and then obviously Saint Bridget and Saint Columcille as well. I will do mention here that regarding Saint Columcille, there was a priest, an Irish priest, departed now into the kingdom of God, that loved so much Saint Columcille that he actually passed that love to me. So that's how I came to have the desire to know him more and more, and obviously to get the translation of his life, to get the chance to read it. So the rest of the saints I kind of discover by taking those trips and visiting the places. There are many of them. I don't know. I'll mention obviously Saint Kevin, which I truly believe that is a healer, because and it's not happening just once, but all the times I'm going to visit Glendalough, I do feel some kind of a relief. I do feel more relaxed and more balanced into my thoughts, more I would say peaceful as well in the same time. So, but it was one occasion when I knew about Glendalough. I've been there for a few times, so I didn't felt very well, and some friends asked me if I can go, with them and do a trip in Glendalough and show them the place. And I said, okay, even I was tired and not feeling well. So I accepted that, and I said, how I'm going to end up this day, because it's a little bit of a journey, driving and then explaining everything. So it was not in the perfect mood. But then we went into the monastic site, into the cemetery where the Ron Tower and the main church is. So we visited that. I still felt really under pressure and feeling ill as well. So we'll continue the journey from the main church and the main settlement of the monastic site to the big lake, the upper lake. So that's kind of around 20 minutes of walking. So I had that journey for me was very special because I was thinking about, obviously, when you're feeling sick, you consider yourself, maybe I'm dying, maybe I have something really bad, sick or a disease. So I was thinking about that, what's happening with me, what I've did wrong, and eventually how I'm going to end up after this. And in the same time, I was thinking about St. Kevin. Well, St. Kevin lived here without any hospitals, without any help, without any medical help or so. And he probably did had the same problems at some stage. How did kind of he survived? How did he deal with those problems? And I was trying to pray, and I was trying to think about him, and I was trying to contemplate maybe asking for God's help as much as I could. So I was just walking along the path, and the people were around me asking me questions, and I was just trouble. But then I don't know how when we reached the upper lake, then I realized that I felt different at the end of that small little walk through the forest, and my trouble thinking at that moment. So I feel instantly full of joy and peaceful, and I didn't felt discouraged. I did feel hope, and somehow the intercession of Saint Kevin. That's why I do recommend always to people that have like anxiety or even powerful thoughts in their heads, maybe to go and take a walk there around the lake, from the monastic side to the upper lake, and why not to follow one of the hiking trails that they are around the monastic side, because it's definitely the presence of the saints there, the presence of the prayer, Saint Kevin's intercession are to be felt in there. It's probably a legacy that he left for that place. So I truly think that we should pray to him as a healer, as we pray to Saint Nectarius, for example, and other healers that we have in Orthodoxy. And not the last one. Now we'll mention Saint Finian as well. I do not know. There is. I don't know if there is basically a life of himself, but he's called the tutor of Saints of Ireland because he established a big, not a big, but an important monastery in Clonard, County Meath, where it was one of the most important ecclesiastical school at the moment. We know definitely that many of the saints that we named already studied under Saint Finian and Saint Columcille, Saint Kieran. So it was an important monastic school, and he was the tutor of them. So I think he was for a great importance, and he had a very high spiritual status. So I don't know. He followed me. He followed me all of the times in my thoughts. I don't know why. So one of the trips that I've done, it was to his monastic site in Clonard, even though it's nothing to see over there. So it's basically the only thing that left behind. That place, that big place. At some stage, some chronicles are mentioning about around 3,000 monks studying in the same time in the monastery. The only thing that you can notice there is just a stone basin of water, and it's not from his time, but a very old font, baptismal font, which is kept into the local church in the village. That's the only thing. But I went there just to probably embrace his spirit around the place, and it was wonderful because we remembered him. We said a prayer in there, and we spoke as much as we could about himself. And then it's not a coincidence as well that the place where I live now, it's very connected to himself. I live in Newcastle, County Dublin, and the school from the village, it's called St. Finian School, National School. There is a holy well dedicated to him, and then an old church of Ireland bearing the feast of St. Finian of Clonard. And also I've discovered recently that actually there are some very, very old monastic remains in the area. There is actually an old stone that I've discovered into one of the gardens of the old houses in the area. It's having some crosses marked, very old crosses marked on it. And also there is a old high cross. Obviously it's very, very kind of It's very not very visible as we are expecting to see the other high crosses in Ireland, but it is there, it's present. So that's definitely was a monastic site related to, who knows, maybe St. Finian was the one who established the monastic site. So the Hollywell School. So I think it's not a pure coincidence that St. Finian is taking an important place into my heart. And also, I need to mention this as well. My desire, since I was a small young person, it was to, at some stage, to become a teacher somehow. So I really admired my teacher in the high school, in the universities, and I really admire the gift that they had in order to to pass the knowledge to some young people that didn't pay attention. So you have to have the skills and the gift as well, and the passion as well to do that. So I was thinking about Saint Finian many times. How did he kind of deal with that problem with so many monks around him? And I think, again, that's another connection, because he was, a tutor for the Saints of Ireland, and I wanted to be a tutor myself. I didn't got to the stage to become a teacher or so, but I really remember that I wanted to become one. And maybe there is something there that probably as being a priest, dealing with people, and the way that I had to look after the youth in the church, into the church, it's part of everything together, kind of. Yeah.
Father, could you tell us a little bit about converts to Orthodoxy in Ireland and how you see the community continue to evolve?
I'm gladly met lovely people while I was taking part into the life of the church, generally speaking, in Ireland. So I'm really grateful for meeting those kind of people. And what amazed me about them, they're the fact that they were not, I would say, in their past, they were not attending a church eventually, and they were not really aware about what will that involving, but they did have that desire to discover God, and they did have the desire to know more and to experience more. So I think first, we didn't met them around the roads or around the city, I would say, on the alleys or so, but they came first. They attended church first in the first instance. And it's not the fact that we spoke and explained them about Orthodoxy. So I think the very important thing is that the way they felt, the way they feel, the way they experienced their first, or say, liturgy, their first touch with the praying of the community. So that's sometimes it's a very, I would say, tricky subject, because ourselves being Romanian, we have a different way of expressing our faith, and we speak different languages. So, but generally, it's not according to that. It's according what do you experience yourself with God into that service. So probably the fact that we sometimes and we try to implement more and more English into our services attract their attention as well, and they felt probably more included into the Orthodoxy. But I would say, yeah, just to underline, I think the most important thing is the way they felt. And after that, after their experience, after they came a few times, we got the chance to discuss and if they have any questions, to give them explanation, to probably guide them for the future. But I was just again amazed of the people that they have that huge desire to discover God, and sometimes I'm sitting next to you here and talking about God, about church with them, I felt really that some thirsty in their soul of discovering God, and I sometimes feel ashamed of my faith in front of them, because they were so convinced about things, and their faith was not kind of, it only have to articulate it being Orthodox, but they were expressing, and they had that belief in God. So I think that's probably coming from it's coming from back from their legacy, and it's in their DNA. Their relation with God, the faith as well, the fact that so many saints prayed and lived in Ireland. I think that's a legacy that they have. Sorry, and yeah, I'm very. We are very grateful to meet new people. We are all the times open to them, and if they have questions, and in this direction, we newly opened a parish in city centre, where Father Bogdan, sir, it's a parish priest, only in English, services only in English, especially for those people kind of who are trying to learn more, live more into that way. And also I will mention here the monastery as well, that whenever I go and do the liturgy in there, I meet new people from around Ireland, from everywhere, like so. I've been facing situations like I was just amazed of how many people came and said, listen, I want to know more about, can you tell me more? Can you direct me in any way to find about more? Obviously, the first answer from ourselves is, to come to the church, to get to read a few books, to listen maybe to some podcasts, explanations and stuff. And obviously, I'm very happy about the Orthodox Fellowship in Ireland, which are helping a lot in this direction. So I think it's a very important space where the people can go and meet other people having the same interest. This is very important as well, and it's helping ourselves in our mission. Obviously, we don't have the mission to bring the whole Ireland to Orthodoxy, but if there is desire, if there is people looking for it, people want a real experience with God, also we can help, and we are there. So I don't know if this is going to answer the question, but yes, there are a few converts, and the way that people should approach Orthodoxy, I would say, and should follow Orthodoxy is just the very important thing is just to belong to a church, to be present to the services. I know it's probably a bit harder to get into the community because that's either a Russian community or maybe a Greek or maybe a Romanian one. It's probably harder, but that's why I would say this fellowship that I've mentioned, it's a proper space, to meet from different countries, being all together, having the same interest. I know it's hard to get into the community at the first instance, but just experience your relation to God firstly by being attentive to the church services. That's the most important thing to do, and then definitely the rest will follow. So we can recommend the books. There are so many resources now that we can use in order to help this. And I think it's everything. It's happening naturally. It's people are seeing or either are using the media channels to find about that, and they're looking, they were searching, and some of them, I think, they're very disappointed about, they're living without purpose, and I think the world today is not giving them a purpose. So they find in a way the purpose of themselves through the faith. So that's why whenever I heard about the Orthodox, let's go and see what's happening in them, and the experience, and God themselves will speak to them through this. Okay. I would say, well, I do have an optimistic view about that, but again, I'm just going to lean onto what Saint Patrick believed, that, and actually he prayed about this thing. So to start with this, to give you an answer, I will say that we know that I cannot name the source where I found this at the moment, but on Croagh Patrick, he was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. And at some stage, an angel of God appeared to him and asked him what was his requirement. And between other things, St. Patrick said that his desire was that for everyone who will perform repentance on this island, that he should be saved by God. So I think that's the perspective that we should follow, you know. But again, just remember repentance, okay, and to live a repentance. So repentance, it's not only something external; it's a way of living. It's a changing of your life according to God's commandment and God's will as well, God's salvation, the resurrection, and everything it's involved into that. So, yeah, Saint Patrick had this desire, you know, whoever lives in repentance on this island, that he should be saved into the kingdom of God. So I think that's a big hope regarding the Orthodoxy generally, and the development of the Orthodoxy. And I do see a big hope as well, not only because there are the president of the many parishes around Ireland now, but that's a good sign anyway as well. So I hope that we're gonna reach the measure that to give an answer to the people that will probably look for Orthodoxy in a proper way. And I mean, like we pray to God ourselves to be examples as much as possible, and everyone, you know, believing in God and having a spiritual life should be an example for the other ones. And on the other side, I would say another aspect that I've noticed into the spiritually, especially in relation to the west side of Europe as well, not only Ireland, but because I'm living in Ireland, I'm just going to refer to Ireland. So I'll say it's very important, as generally and always been said into the Orthodox Church, that we always need to go back to the well of the Orthodoxy, which are the primarily sources of Orthodoxy, the writings of the Holy Fathers, their explanation, the theology of the first centuries. So I think that's very important, because it's giving us a clear and an accurate of viewing how should we live our faith today, because it's a challenging time now from many points of view today to live as an Orthodox person into this world. We're talking about fasting. We're talking about the way you speak, the way you behave yourself. You know, the way you probably attend. You want to attend for special feasts like just the resurrection past now. So express your faith at the end. You know, so that's involving challenges. So that's why we need to know how to approach those things, and always we don't have to invent something, but always go to the well, I would say, the well of Orthodoxy, the primary sources of our Holy Fathers. And that action could be classified as, first of all, find a church, find a place to go to pray, find a place where you can have a spiritual father, a priest, to have a regular confession to him. And this is something that I've mentioned. I started with this, I didn't continue, sorry. What's happening in the West Europe, it's the missing of understanding of the patristic thinking. I'm talking here about the paternity. This it's a thing existing in Orthodoxy, paternity. So any knowledge, any faith, any experience that has been passed from generation to generation. But paternity does exist, from mother to son, mother to daughter, and from son to his son, and will continue from a paternal point of view. But I'm talking about the faith itself and the spiritual life itself. So that's a very important line that we need to attach in order to, not to live properly the Orthodoxy. It's a very important thing, because we can notice some deviation at some stage, very present into the media channels as well, on the internet, that people are just trying to make their own, I would say, their own point of view regarding Orthodoxy, their own understanding of Orthodoxy, understanding of faith, and that sometimes, if you're not related to that red wire of paternity, then you can easily fall on the side And I wouldn't say you're going to become a heretic, but you can obviously have maybe only your point of view into that. So you're kind of not connected to the core of the Orthodoxy itself, from which paternity it's important feature. So I've noticed we should kind of emphasize that into our living, and that's one thing that I really mentioned to the person who came to me and asked about Orthodoxy, and who came asking about advices, how should we do that and so on. So I think it's very important. But anyway, it's a good hope, and I do believe that it's again, only God will know. Only God will help us, definitely, and the grace of God that we should ask all the time, and should rely on the time as much as possible, not in order to be many in numbers, but to be, true believers and true faithful.
So, Father, with regards to the tours that you mentioned earlier that you do, where can people find out more information, or how can they contact you?
Yeah, just regarding those, I need to mention as well that I was starting these kind of trips around the sacred places in Ireland, around the ruins of the old monasteries, back when I was looking after the Nepsis Ireland youth organization of the church. So firstly, I've noticed that I was doing that myself. So whenever I had free time, I wanted to discover more. I wanted to see more places. I found myself really charged of great experience and positivity as well, visiting those places. Not only, I would say, the monasteries or the churches themselves, but the holy wells as well, the seaside, the ocean, everything involved into one trip, I'll say. So I felt that really that kind of trip gave me more power, more clearance, more balance into my daily life. So I think I came to with this idea that sometimes we need kind of a small little escape into the garden of creation of God, and to explore the beauty that we have around, but also to get more grace from the places that where the saints lived. So that's why I was trying to first organize small trips, going firstly to closest places as Glendalough, also maybe around Swords as well. And then eventually these developed into trips going over three days, and 2 nights. So those trips at the beginning were addressed, to the youth people that wanted to not to have fun, but to enjoy themselves, and met the other youth with the same, orientation, or say, faith, God experience, living, having joyful time, and so on. So I was organizing them once or twice a year, addressing firstly to them, and this kind of became a tradition with the Nepsis Ireland. And every year we had around 2 or 3 trips with them. So that was kind of, at some stage we had people coming from all Europe, even not only Romanians, but some other nationalities as well. So we had people from Spain, people from France, from Belgium as well. So we really enjoyed our time, and it's very important as well that we travel to Ireland, and then myself being ordained in the meantime, we were able to do a divine liturgy at some place somehow. So we either, if it was a cathedral or if it was a church, that the congregation from the place received and allow us to do service in there. The most important, I will just mention that. Sorry, and the most important one that I do remember, it was on Achill Island, when we contacted the priest, Catholic priest, I think. And then I said, I'm a Romanian Orthodox priest. We're doing the trip, but because it's Sunday, we need to have our service as well. So he said, yeah, no problem. He gave us his address, and then just feel at home. And we really felt at home because we arrived. The church was open for us. The conditions were very, beautiful and nice. Everything was, what we needed in there. So no one came disturbing us. So literally, we really felt blessed in that time, and we felt very, understood by the other people. So they didn't come to see who we are, what we are doing, and what was the reason to do something in their church? Simply come, use the church, be blessed, and goodbye. And that was it. And that was a nice experience. And we encountered that experience everywhere we went. So that's another thing, and it's doing the trips. So we having as well, if it's a Sunday, because the trips are happening in during the weekends, we do liturgy wherever we have a chance to go and do that. And usually I was with the group myself, and if it wasn't me, it was another priest as well. So it's important for ourselves to be there, because sometimes we need to guide a little bit the group, and then probably being balanced as well. So this is how I started, and then this thing then become a project for the youth organization called Nepsis Summer Trip, because it happened in the summer, and we visited loads of places. Apart from Donegal, we've been nearly everywhere. In Ireland, Croagh-Patrick, Aran Islands, Galway, Cork, Guggenbarra. We have so many places that we visit, and so many saints we came across in those places. So that project eventually, when I finished up with the Nepsis Ireland Association, developed for me as a personal project. So I still continue to do tours, and I for this reason I followed a training course, which is a tour guiding for Ireland course that I've completed in 2019 for 1 year. So I have just a little bit of I'll say systematic knowledge about how to organize a tour, how to manage a group, and how to plan your trip as well. So that gave me an extra knowledge about organizing trips. And then eventually, at the moment, I'm doing a heritage and culture and heritage course, which is another level to add to this. So this eventually led me to open a new project, which is called Red Druid Tours. So under this name, I'm trying to have specific themed tours around Ireland, all over the year, trying to bring people to see, the beauty of Ireland on one side, and on to the other side to see specific, depends on the theme that we're doing. So if we're going to do the scriptural crosses, we're going to go and see the most important high crosses or scriptural crosses that we have from a specific area, because there are so many. We had a trip called Monasticism around River Shannon, which is it's as well. It's a very important trip of my project, and why not seeing some specific holy wells, and maybe one day into the medieval city of Kilkenny, and one day at the Glendalough. Regarding Glendalough, it's also worth mentioning that while I was doing the trips there, I got in contact with them. It's called God's Cottage, which is a small house prayer, I would say, belonging to a Catholic priest, very open to to everyone who wants to pray, next to the monastic site. So it's very nice that we can go there, visit the monastic site, but before that we can have a divine liturgy in the place. So I was very happy to have that relation and to open that relation with that local priest, and gladly gave us the opportunity to do that. So I was just imagining what great opportunity we have through this, to do a divine liturgy next to the monastic site, where for so many years St. Kevin and the monks at the monastery itself have his liturgical life. It was very important. It was very close to each other. So I'll say I have many projects. It's not a company that I have, but it's just a project that I'm trying to follow, in order to bring people to see beyond the walls that they sing, to hear the story of the saints, and to hear what's the purpose of having a high cross, a scriptural cross, between the walls of a monastery. Why are the place names related to some saints as well? So there's many things to discover behind what we see at the first instance. So that's kind of also my purpose. Obviously, we can go into the big monastic sites like Glendalough or Clonmacnoise, or we can name some other as well. where we can see a movie and then maybe we can have a tour guide to explain us. That's no problem. But what I will add to this is also spiritual and maybe I'll say an Orthodox point of view understanding as well. So I think it's very important to have that as well. And yeah, that's so I do have a Facebook page called Red Druid Tours. There's no website at the moment, but usually I do announce my trips through the community that I have, through the Facebook page, by word from person to person. I'm addressing yourselves as well sometimes, and I know many people came into my trips. So hopefully at some stage this is something that the tourism sector could very well develop, like somehow a niche of religious tours around Ireland, because the heritage it's so big and it's so many things to see. Even if I've been into so many places that I think I didn't cover even half of the places that can be visited in relation to the Christianity. So that's the main purpose anyway, Christianity and everything related to that. Even we have to mention the manuscripts, the places where those were written, or the rest that are in relation to the Christianity in Ireland. And just because I was mentioning discovering saints, many things happen from that point of view to me. Like I wouldn't say miracles, but anyway, I didn't expect a few things to be happening to me. So if you are open, to, and if you have the desire to discover them, I think sometimes the saints are discovering themselves to yourself. So that's another point of the trips, that I'm trying to organize. It's this part of discovering, but it's also, to bring to the people this desire of, to let the saints be discovered to you as well. But firstly, for yourself to have the intention to do that. So I'm just going to give an example here. At some stage, I was visiting Armagh, and I was looking to see, the cathedrals in Armagh, and just the place itself as because his importance in the past. And then from returning to Dublin, I was just looking shortly on the map, and I saw this Kilbrony. So again, with the place names, like I've said, some of the place names definitely they are connected to the saints. Well, we know definitely that Kil is coming from the Irish, and it's representing it's meaning church. So every time I'm reading Kil and the name following Kil, definitely there was a church there, and something related to a saint and someone who established the church there. So I've seen on the map returning from Armagh, Kilbrony. I say, well, definitely there must be something in there as well. So it was not that far away. So I said, I was with my family. I said, okay, let's do a little bit of a changing plan and have let's make a trip to see what's in there. I didn't do any research. I didn't know anything about it. But then while I was just driving, my wife was driving the car at the moment. So while I was driving to Kilbrony, which is in Rostrevor, part of Northern Ireland, I was doing a little bit of research about the name, and I found it, indeed, that it was established by a female saint called Brona. So that's why we have Kilbrona or Kilbrony, the Church of Brona, or Brony, sorry. And then we went, and I was just amazed how many things we discovered into that place. So it was an old high cross, very, very old, because it didn't have the ring around the arms. Very beautiful. And the old church, graveyard around the old church, obviously ruins. A holy well dedicated to Saint Brona. And also an amazing thing was the handbell belonging to Saint Brona. Well, according to the history, that it has been found in one of the trees, hidden probably because of the Viking raids or so. But because of the storm, the tree fell down, and then they discovered the bell. They could only hear the bell whenever it was a big storm around the place. And anyway, the bell it's kept into the local church of the village, and it's dated to 900 AD, so it's very old, and we're very happy to discover all of those things just by a single click on the map of this place called Kilbrony. So again, yeah, Saint Brona, very early saint. They believe that she was a disciple of Saint Patrick, and she founded the monastery there. And there is, like I've said, the holy bell, and then this bell kept into the local church, and that was amazing. And another thing, simply I was just at some stage passing from monastery boys going up and trying to going to Down Patrick, I think, and then at some stage I saw a sign saying Termon Fekin. So I said, what will this name involve? And I simply again had a look on the internet to see that actually there was a saint living in that place, and it's an old high cross into the monastic site that used to be existed in the past. So I went my trip in there, and obviously I discovered a very beautiful cross. So those things, like I had the desire, and then eventually things discovered themselves to me. And I think that's valid for everyone. Like, if you truly have that desire, I think you can. But obviously, probably because I'm not from Ireland as well, those things are very, I'll say maybe specific to me in a way. So that's one of the beauty of discovering things as well.
Well, Father, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. It's been great listening to you. So yes, thank you so much.
I must say thank you as well, and thank you for your time, for your presence as well. And obviously, I really enjoy have this conversation. Not because it's about explaining about myself and saying things about myself, but I think it's a great initiative, to bring in front of the others, and hopefully these interviews will go, to reach more people and to bring more examples. Why not? And to bring up to the light the way we live, the way who we are, and maybe to help the person that are in questioning about Orthodoxy faith. So yeah, I must say thank you, and I hope I didn't say anything wrong in whatever I've said. But I was trying to be as honest as possible, and I wish you all the best into the next interviews that you have, and also with hopeful thoughts about the future of the fellowship as well. Just to say, I put a lot of hope into this because I'm a part of it as well, But also, I think it's very helpful for the church and for the people that are taking part of it. And just as a conclusion, and because we discussed about the hope of Orthodoxy, I think that was a very important question as well. And I was mentioning Saint Patrick. I was still going to mention something related to Saint Patrick. The episode where Saint Patrick, because we are very close now and we are into the Bright Week, close to the resurrection feast. When Saint Patrick arrived, after a while of his arrival in Ireland, it was a time for the Paschal time. So, in order to do the divine liturgy, that happened in the same time with the Beltane pagan festival, which was forbidding for any fire to be lit up in the country before the King of Tara will do that. So there we have Saint Patrick on Hill of Slane, very close, not very close, but close enough to be seen from Tara, where he's lighting up the fire for the Paschal services. And then obviously that was forbidden, and when the Druids saw that, and they made it actually prophecy, which is, I think it's very reliable and it's very important, to be taken in consideration and for ourselves. So one of the druids said to his king, and I'm going to read that: if this fire is not extinguished tonight, it will never be put out. and it will spread across all Ireland. So I think it's kind of the prophecy. It's staying upright, as we can see that Orthodoxy is alive and faith is alive, and people are searching for that. People are searching God. So that's a hope, and it's kind of a prophecy coming from who we didn't expect, and it's a nice thing. So yeah, okay. Again, thank you, and the best wishes for the next projects that you have.
Thank you so much, Father.